Hooks are a new feature in React 16.7.0 in alpha version. They're still not in production, it's still an upcoming feature, but you can already use it with an alpha version of React. This is an app we're going to build. Most of it is already built. It's not going to be a full-on tutorial on how to build this app, but sort of like a to-do list that has a random picking of tasks. It's for guitar practice. It has a list of tasks, holds in a local storage. What we're going to focus on in this video is just React hooks. So the way our app works is this is styled components. If you don't know how to use them, just don't pay attention to them. In this video, they're not important. To use React hooks, we need the version of React that I mentioned, 16.7.0 alpha. We're going to be using useState and useEffect from React. The way this works is you get this sort of thing. So how does this work? You can now have state in functional components, meaning that you don't need classes for your stateful components, and now functions are not just stateless components, they might have a state. The way it would work, you would use state, and every hook in React would have use before it, and there are a lot of others, and you can even write your custom hooks, and the convention for that would be to use. The way React hooks works is that you just need to define each piece of your state at the top of your functional component. So you can have something like in a condition in here, that wouldn't work. You also don't need state to be an object. It can have primitive values in it. So what we will do now is, this is our page. It returns our two values, page and a function for setting that state value. We can now pass it to our header component that cares about page and set page. The other two pieces of state that we would need for this app is task and set task. The initial version would be null and cost tasks and set tasks. For that, I would use the data manager class. That's just a little bit of abstraction over local storage. It gets tasks value from local storage. So now we can pass all of this where it's needed. So task and set task will be here. And update task is still not ready, so that function is not ready. What update tasks would do is get tasks from the data manager again, from local storage, and it would set them. I know it's a lot and we still haven't looked at how it works in action, but we will just now. So what we need is show page, and I just copy pasted this. If page is a list, it would return tasks list. If page is single, it would return single task, and if page is about, would return about. And let's just take a look at this. Instead of this, app would have show page and page. So I hope this works. So we have pick a task, and that shows nothing left because there are no tasks in our data manager. It shows a list of tasks, and when we click here, the state changes. And that's just with functional components. And let's also pass update tasks in here. But for this app to work, we will also need to add the functionality to add task component, and that would be this component right here. What we need here is two pieces of state, const value and set value, and we would use state for that, and the initial value would be empty string, and we would pass a value here. Okay, what we can do here is to write in here, set value, current target value. And that should work. That should work as usual, our React components work. So we refresh and we can write in here. So now we need this add button to work. So let's write add functionality, add. In here, what we'll do is create a new item, and that would be title value. ID would be date now. And then we can use the data manager to add this. We also need a state for this function, for this object to do. Data manager add tasks item. And we can also empty this, set value empty. So on click, our button would call add. And this will work, but it won't show right away. So I had to refresh to show the new task. For it to work, we passed here update tasks, and let's call that. And this is calling the update tasks function. What it does is gets tasks from local storage again and sets them to the state, which causes app to re-render and show the list of tasks with new tasks value. So if we add them again, one more, it shows immediately. Now we'll take a look at the most important part of this app is the timer. The point of this app is to have to pick a random task and put a 5-minute timer on it. And well, not exactly 5 minutes. We can have minutes, set minutes. So that would be use state. Let's actually say 0, 1, so we can test this easier. We can also would have finished and set finished. If the task been finished, so false, and we can put it here, finished. Nobody who cares about finished. And we would also need a timer and set timer. Now we would use an object in here. An ID would be null, started would be date, get time. Let's also write a function that would increment those seconds. So now here's an interesting caveat would be here. When we use set timer, we cannot just do this as we would do in old React, not in old React, as we would do in classes. In classes we can make this set state, and it would not overwrite all state, it would just touch the seconds part. All the other state would be intact. But in here you have to take into account that if you write just about, oh, I also need seconds here, so seconds 0. So if we just update the seconds, all this part would be erased. So this wouldn't happen. We need access to the previous state, and we need also to use the spread operator. The way it would work is we would pass here a function with previous state as an argument, and we would return this object that would spread previous state, and it would add seconds. So get seconds diff is actually gets previous state started and subtracts the current date, so we get the accurate amount of seconds passed. One interesting other caveat, we couldn't have, you might have think to do this, because inch re-render, this function gets called again as I understand it, so timer each time would be set to the default value, so it wouldn't work properly. So the only way you can use it is to use it via previous state in here, or if you use it in use effect, which I would show it later, then you would have access to the current state, and when you return, that's your rendering part. Here you would have access to your current state. In here you would always have the default value, as I understand. That was my experience. The next part would be to code the functionality of start button. Here we would check if not timer ID. We would start our timer. So we would need const started, date, get time. We would also need an ID of interval. This way we could stop the timer from going. So that would be set interval for increment seconds, 1 second. Then we would set finish to false just in case, and then we would set timer with the ID of ID, started, and seconds 0. And we also need to code stop functionality. In stop functionality, you would use clear interval for timer ID, and you would use set timer, spread the timer, ID is null, and the seconds is 0. Now what we also need to happen is we need to make sure that our timer stops at the end and the task is marked as finished. To do that, we would use useEffect. The way useEffect works is you call it useEffect, you pass it a callback, and everything that has a side effect in your code, you can every side effect operations can be done in here. Const how much left. Actually make it left, because there is a function how much left. So timer seconds and minutes. So it would look at difference between how much seconds should pass, how much minutes should pass, and how much already passed. If left is less than 1, we can do clear interval timer ID, and we can also set timer to our default values of ID null and seconds 0. Just spread the rest. Really, that would be the way to do it, so it wouldn't overwrite our new value. Next, we'd make sure that the task is done. Props task state is done. Data manager update. Wait, not that would be this, and set finished would be true. This is, I think, pretty much it, and just here on change we would have the onChange handler for minutes, and that would be pretty much the same thing. Set minutes to the current target value. Also converted. Okay, let's see if it works. And now we're picking a task and the error comes. State get time is not a constructor. Okay, this happened because I need to do this, yes. Here as well. If I go now and pick a task, press start. At the end it should change the, yeah, it changed to the done, but it didn't change the color. It only changed the color after I hit refresh. That happened because we can use useEffect in here as well in our index.js to see those effects. Those effects we would call update tasks. The other neat thing about hooks is that when you use useEffect, you can pass additional parameter, and that would change, call this update task only when the page has changed. Now let's go here. Let's refresh. One more. We're adding it. Pick a task. Call it. And after the 6-second pass, it's done, and it's now green as well. The other thing that would be interesting here is if we're testing more. Testing more too. If now we pick a task, and after the task is ended, after 6 seconds have passed, this disabled would be finished, but if we pick a new task, they're still disabled. That's not good. Do that in our timer.js, you can have more than one useEffect for different things for separating your logic. So in here, what we would do is we would set finished false, but we can't do that each time because that would not be good. We do need only when the task has changed. So we can again pass the second parameter. So it would look at props task, and whenever that prop has changed, it would set our finished to false, and we can use the timer again. So let's refresh. List of tasks. We have 2 more tasks left. Pick a task. Let's see if 6 seconds pass. And they do, and pick a task again. Okay, so this will be pretty much it for React hooks. At least that was my introduction to React hooks and a little bit of my experience. It will be on GitHub if you want to take a further look into this app.